Hello and welcome to another standard video here in the preview event for Lorwyn Eclipsed. Today we're checking out this black-green rampy Changelings deck, which in turn also counts as a demon deck and also counts as a slivers deck. So those are the main payoffs that we're building around. The Mutable Explorer being one of the main additions from Lorwyn, a 3-mana 1/1 with a Changeling ability, so it has all creature types, including, as we mentioned, demon and sliver, which is the ones we care about in the deck. And then when it enters, we also get to make a tapped Mutavault token, which is a land that for 1 mana can activate to turn into a 2/2 creature with all creature types. So if we activate the Mutavault, we potentially now have 2 Changelings in play, which in turn can give our Thrumming Hive pool a 2-mana discount, since this has affinity for slivers. So for every Changeling in play, it will also get a 1-mana discount. And then once we get this artifact down, slivers, aka Changelings we control, have a double strike and haste, and at the beginning of our upkeep we get to make a pair of 1/1 sliver creature tokens. So this can also help us go wide and pretty quickly close out the game. The Hive pool is still decent in multiples, since with those sliver tokens we'll be able to give the second Hive pool an even bigger discount and often cast it for just 1 or 2 mana. And then now with the Hive pool in play, of course, our Changelings also gain double strike and haste, so the Mutavault can hit incredibly hard. We're also playing the full playset of the Fairdog Core, which is a 3-mana Kindred artifact that's also a shapeshifter with a Changeling ability. So the Core, despite being an artifact that normally taps for a mana of any color, still enables our various synergies, such as discounting our Hive pool for affinity, and enabling the Unholy Annex as a demon, as it will now drain the opponent for 2 and gain us 2 life, in addition to drawing a card each turn. Can also unlock the Ritual Chamber to make a 6/6 demon token. And then the Core can also pay 4 mana to turn into a 4/4 creature until end of turn. So once again, with the Hive pool, that's a 4/4 double striking creature, so that can also close out the game very quickly. And all of these win conditions, our artifacts, and our various lands in the mana base are also pretty nice to have in a deck that can still keep the board clear with 4 main deck deadly cover-ups. So this is our sweeper of choice. We're pretty good at enabling Collect Evidence, since we also have some self-mill synergy with the Blossoming Tortoise, a 4-mana 3/3. When it enters or attacks, we get to mill 3 cards and then return a land from our graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So the Tortoise plays well with our 2 Fabled Passages, as we can guarantee a land in the graveyard turn after turn, so we can keep fetching up more basics. But we also have a ton of utility lands in our mana base, which also benefit from a Tortoise in play, as now activated abilities of lands we control cost 1 less to activate. And that also applies to any Mutavault tokens we might have generated, so now we can activate that Mutavault for free if we control the Tortoise. And on top of that, land creatures we control get +1/+1, so now Mutavault's a 3/3. We've got the Soulstone Sanctuary, will be 3 mana to activate to turn into a 4/4 with Vigilance, also has all creature types, so also benefits from a Thrumming Hive pool. And then we have 2 more creature lands with Restless Cottage, can turn into a 4/4 with Tortoise, a 5/5, that when it attacks can exile a card from a graveyard and make a food token, which can gain us some life back. And the Restless Cottage, also very synergistic with Ba Sing Se, which can pay 3 mana, tap to Earthbend 2. So even if we Earthbend onto the cottage, despite not necessarily activating the cottage, it will still trigger the second ability, where if it attacks we get to make a food token and exile a card from a graveyard. So that's another neat interaction. And of course, if we first Earthbend and then activate the cottage, it's going to be even bigger. And of course that also scales with our Blossoming Tortoise. So there's a ton of synergy throughout, plenty of basics to fetch with either Fabled Passage, or I'm also playing the full set of Shared Roots, which can also fix our colors and ramp us early on without putting more creatures on the battlefield that might end up dying to our own sweeper. But I am still playing Llanowar Elves, since it can give us those very explosive starts, setting up our various 3-drops on turn 2, and maybe ramping out a Blossoming Tortoise ahead of schedule, so that can also snowball pretty quickly. And then a very efficient removal spell from Lorwyn, Requiting Hex, can take out any 1 or 2 drops, can also maybe Blight 1, put a -1 counter on one of our creatures if we would like to gain 2 life, can also be worth it at times. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw with a functional hand, so we can keep. And then we'll have the Fabled Passage to go with Tortoise. Opponent blue-black. And get a swamp. Is this a fairy deck? No action yet. So if we want to guarantee a land in the graveyard, I should Fabled Passage. Right, never mind, the seats can have a look. So I can now take the Tortoise. Might go for the Annex, which is also pretty good. But yeah, Tortoise is gone. Mutable Explorer. I think we can go for next turn. Still gonna fetch. I guess I could have waited on the off chance that there's some graveyard hate. But yeah, we'll start with Annex, and then next turn I can go Core into Explorer, which will also provide a demon for the Annex. I see, Kivero just turning into a Deceit here. And that also triggers both modes, so they can bounce and discard. But at least it's just a 4/4. Well, I guess our opponent didn't tap carefully enough to select both modes. They only got the bounce effect out of it. Alright, works for me. So then, I think I still stick to the plan. Even though it would have been nice to replay Annex in case they can make me discard it again. Take 4. Alright, so I don't really expect any counter spells, but you never know. And then I could immediately make a demon. Sure. That one might get removed, but we'll still have a demon with a changeling. Shoot the sheriff. Does not work on changelings. Nowhere turn does. And despite not being a creature here, the core is still a changeling, so it still counts as a demon for Annex. So we get to drain for 2. So I guess that's a good opportunity to cast a Deadly Cover-Up in the meantime. Opponent just hard casting another Kivero as the turtle. Milling some goodies. I guess now I don't actually have enough to collect evidence, strangely enough. Alright, how does that change matters? I mean, I'm still wiping the board here, I think. And then follow up with another Explorer. Play tapped Cottage seems fine. And then Cottage also gives us graveyard hate, should we need it. Deepest Betrayal could make us discard. Guess I don't have an answer to that one just yet. Alright, so what are we thinking? Can always send in the Cottage anyways. And then could also send in the Core. Yeah, I guess I have enough for both. Would love to find our Sliver artifact, of course. Exile, at this point, Deceit. Opponent takes 8. And find another Tortoise, so that can also help grow the Mutavaults and activate them for free. Hex can go. And a Bat is gonna have a look, can still take it out with a Hex. So that's what they'll take. Opponent's down to 1 card in hand, find another Hex anyways. Okay, that seems fine to me. Could have also paid the Blight cost and put a -1 counter on the Tortoise, I suppose. And get back Fabled Passage. Animates Mutavaults for free. And Cottage as well. Also discounted by 1. So this should be a pretty nice attack. And yeah, that's why we're running Blossoming Tortoise. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw with a fine hand. Got some ramp into a sweeper. Opponent on a sacrifice deck, it seems. Yeah, color can be annoying since it's going to keep coming back. I'm hoping to find my sliver card. And get a forest. So the core maybe curves into the cover-up a bit better, since I don't end up losing any creatures. But maybe playing Explorer encourages the opponent to overextend. I see, so maybe more of a self-mill deck. Okay, see a couple Twilight Diviners, Bloodghast. Alright, found the Tortoise, that's maybe the better play now. Hoping it mills a land. Which it did, including Fabled Passage. So that can guarantee more lands in the future. Opponent plays the Diviner. And yeah, cover up also doubles up as some form of graveyard hate. So ideally I can mill a couple more cards to collect evidence. And Bloodghast is back, and they get to make a copy with the Diviner, so that's pretty neat. We're still at 14, so Bloodghast does not have haste at least. Alright, so Tortoise attacks. Can fetch first to increase my odds of collecting evidence, since I'll have fewer actual lands in the deck I can mill. Sadly milled one of my hive pools. But now we can collect evidence with it at least. And then I probably want to extract Bloodghast out of the deck. So we've got Emptiness, Cosmogrant, some removal that mills, Helping Hand, and more ways to fill the graveyard. So they can still use Emptiness to get stuff back. Helping Hand for starters. So yeah, possible that exiling the Diviner also would have worked out. Opponent gets a copy of Color from Diviner, so yeah, it's a lot of hasty damage. At least I don't need to worry about Bloodghasts. Oh, that's convenient, another cover-up. Sure. And then what do I want to get rid of? So this one is in exile. So I wouldn't be able to get rid of this one, but I can get rid of the Diviners, which is probably still good enough. So I can get rid of all of the Diviners here, so they can bring them back with Emptiness. And then, sure, I'll play Llanowar Elves, even though we know about Quack Feast. Need to bait those out eventually. So I can play a couple cores, explore to make Mutavaults. Opponent keeps filling the graveyard. Cosmogrant could be pretty effective. Annex is a good one. So now Let's see, I cannot go double core plus annex, but I can go, I guess, explore plus annex, which is maybe better. They'll be incentivized to take out the explorer. And we've got more demons in hand. And then Quack Feast looks at mana value, so it can also be a good answer to the demon token. So it's going to be Cosmogrand into color. I'm going for +1 counters. Take 4. And the Hex can take care of Lewin. Okay, so this turn... I just want to add more to the board, I guess. Can go core, core, shared roots, plus Hex. And I could wait on casting it. Find another annex, so those can add up. And I might end up using the blind mode to gain 2 more. Especially if they remove the explorer. And now we've unfizzled the Quack Feast, so they didn't get to mill. Still a close game, but I like where this is headed. Can I animate my lands and just get the game over with? Mutavault hits for 2. Sanctuary, so that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Assuming I can play all of them. I can also use the Sanctuary second main, since it has Vigilance. So this would not have been lethal if I animated the core. That would have been lethal. 6 + 2 is 8. But I think this plus annex might have still been slightly better. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a solid hand. Opponent blue-green with a Siren. So maybe they're trying to make a bunch of permanents to copy with a 6 mana clone everything card. And no turn 2 ramp, but Explorer can still set up cover up on the following turn. Nice to have the Hive Pool. And our opponent goes exploring. Yep, there's the mirror form. Oh, now it's no longer a surprise. Play Explorer. So this can copy any non-land permanent, including the ones I control. So we'll have to be pretty careful. So they won't be able to cast it next turn. Could go for Tortoise first, or could just get the Hive Pool in play. Although I don't want my opponent to copy the Hive Pool necessarily. So it's an interesting spot. I guess I can go for Tortoise. Could have even played Tortoise and attacked for 2, but there's a chance they have some removal. I did not mill a land, unfortunately, but I did enable Collect Evidence. I see, Twin Flame Tyrant, so that's the one they really want to copy with a mirror form. I'm afraid I can't allow that to happen. So attack all out, since we're gonna wipe the board anyway. Wow, that's impressive. In 6 cards, did not mill a single land. Opponent takes it. And I guess we get rid of the dragon here. Opponent had another one in hand. See, Overlord, Sentinel, a bunch of other enablers. Alright, so now they have a mirror form, but not a ton of non-land permanents to copy. Engineer now gives them 2 more. I am at 7, so I don't have a ton of life to spare. Yeah, I don't really want to put the hive pool in play, because then my opponent gets to steal it. I would rather them copy a creature. Maybe I go for Explorer. Or just animate Sanctuary. Play Explorer afterwards. Never mind, now with Overlord we're probably dead. So I have to cover up. I guess we just try to extract all their win conditions out of the deck. But I also need to make sure I can win the game somehow. I guess we chip in with Mutavaults. Opponent is at 8 now, so it doesn't take much. This is an instant. Yeah, that does complicate matters, otherwise I could have maybe animated Mutavaults to discount Hive Pool, played it, and attacked for lethal. I guess that could still potentially work, depending on the board state. Yeah, I guess we can try to set that up. So just play a couple more creatures out, especially the Changeling. And then next turn I can play a cheap Hive Pool, and my creatures will have double strike, the opponent's won't. So then I don't end up trading a bunch for the opponent's stuff. Alright, it's go time. Play Hive Pool. Opponent can cast a Mirror Form to make 2 blockers. But I don't think that's gonna be enough. I guess they can fall to 1, but have nothing left. And if they copy the Hive Pool, it doesn't do anything for them. Because if I had played this sooner on a more empty board, then they get to make a bunch of copies, and then the 1/1 slivers are just gonna overwhelm me. And I cannot answer it with a cover-up. So we'll see. Yeah, this being an instant and being able to copy opposing permanents does make it a lot better. If they target the Explorer, they don't get the ETB effects. So they just get some 1/1s. So they were gonna have to chump anyways. But yeah, double strike will still get you. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a hand that needs a black mana, but Explorer into Hive Pool I cannot pass down. So we don't quite know what we're up against yet. It looks like elementals. Catharsis can make a pair of 1/1s. Right, now Fabled Passage can get Swamp. Yeah, I guess there's no reason not to do it now. Okay, so this turn, probably still going for Explorer, or we could go Core plus Hex, which is also pretty efficient. And still adds a Changeling for Hive Pool. I'll wait and see if they run out something else. Otherwise, I'm fine taking out the token. Okay, so could already cast a Hive Pool, I guess. Although, possible they have an elemental that can blow up artifacts and enchantments, but then they probably would have gone for the core. If I play Explorer, I'll be a little bit short, so yeah. Just play the Hive Pool. Now the core can also hit for 8. And there's Ashling, would have been a fine target for the Hex. Discards Emptiness. Anything else? Alright, we're getting our sliver tokens. Fine Tortoise. Alright, so couple options. I guess I don't mind going for Tortoise. And then, at the very least, I'm getting back Fabled Passage. And now I probably prefer Sanctuary. And then I don't have to attack. Ashling transforms, making an extra mana to cast elemental spells. And now Emptiness, full price. Takes out Tortoise, but there was nothing to return. And make more slivers. Could wipe the board after an attack. Yeah, it seems fine. And then we can collect evidence. Can I leave the Tortoise? I guess I'll Shared Roots first. And then I can still cover up with Collect Evidence. Leaving Tortoise in the graveyard, doesn't matter. I guess I'm not reanimating it in any way. And we'll get rid of, I guess, the Emptiness. So we've got Bloodline Bidding, all the Elementals, and Duskmourn's Claim. Okay. So I can animate the core for 4 mana, and that's 6, 12. It's not quite lethal. Guess I'll just animate Sanctuary then. Play Explorer. Well, I guess never mind, I can still do both. So that should be game. Sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. My hand is a bunch of ramp, no real payoff, a little bit of removal. What am I hoping to draw? I guess the Unholy Annex, Blossoming Tortoise would be good. I think I can still do better. Well, the Hive Pool also would have been a fine card to ramp into, although now I'm very far from casting it. Unless I find green mana right away. I'll try it. If I find a green source in 2 draw steps, I'm maybe still okay. Always had it. Opponent ramping with Badger Mole. And we're ramping with Mutable Explorer. It could be anything. So we could already play Hive Pool next turn. Opponent with the Ascension. With a land I could even attack with Mutavault and still play Hive Pool. Okay. If I activate this, I get a 1 mana discount, so then it's 4 mana to deploy this. And the first Hive Pool makes the second one even easier to deploy. So it is actually quite good in multiples, despite, of course, Double Strike not stacking. But we do get to make additional 1/1s each turn. Opponent going off with our landfall synergy, so Ascension is online. They have access to a lot of mana. And what's the big finish? Alright, just activating Ba Sing Se. That's fine. Okay, so can play Explorer, animate Mutavault, and cast a 1 mana Hive Pool. If that isn't sweet, I don't know what is. And do I need to leave blockers back? Maybe, for opponent's gonna Crater Hoof me. Am I threatening lethal? Am I forcing them to chump? 4, 5, 6, times 2 is 12. So I'm not forcing lethal, so I'm probably dead to a Crater Hoof no matter what. Yeah, let's go all out. Alright, so they did chump. Does trigger the Ascension again. And next turn I should have lethal, but we'll see what our opponent can do. Cast a World Sire. Yep, that's pretty good, so now they can put a whole bunch of counters onto the Cub. Although, probably not enough for lethal. And we don't mind that our opponent has some huge creatures when we're just going wide next turn. They actually hit a lot of lands here. But luckily Fabled Passage doesn't sacrifice itself right away. Oh, I think they might actually get there. Wow, they did. That's impressive. Because they didn't really look at a ton of cards, but I guess they happened to all be lanes. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play with a decent hand. Got our Changeling for Annex. Got some early ramp. May need some removal at some points. Let's see what we're up against. Blue-white. Could be Merfolk, maybe? This turn could already play the Annex, to be fair. Get some extra cards going. And then next turn the core gives us a demon, but I could also just draw land to cast a Tortoise. Although possible, just prioritizing a guaranteed Tortoise was better. Opponent is indeed on Merfolk. And Hex is a decent answer. So that still works. Play the core, which is a demon for Annex. Take out the Duelist. And be on our merry way. Opponent with a Mentor now, revealing the second Duelist in hand. And now we have access to 6 mana. So Tortoise plus Roots looks good. Start with Roots, maybe your opponent has a Spell Snare that they want to use, they don't. Did not mill a land, sadly, but ended up drawing one. I guess playing Tortoise before fetching for a land would have improved my odds of milling a land. And now Water Shaper, saying tapped creatures besides the Water Shaper are indestructible. Can still soak up 2 damage. And the Hex wouldn't be able to take out the Water Shaper here. So Tortoise doesn't necessarily have the best attack. Can just play another copy, see what we mill. Fabled Passage guarantees lands in the future. And then I'm down to just play another Annex. And slowly drain the opponent to death here. Can keep up the Hex. Yeah, who knew that artifacts can also count as demons? With double Tortoise, I can activate Cottage for just 2 mana as well. And Duelist I would like to destroy, although we have to be careful that they don't have the Convoke card, which is 5 mana, to tap their stuff down and make it indestructible. Now we know the coast is clear. So I can once again block. Alright, let's start by fetching. Could have also activated Ba Sing Se on the fetch land first, just to get it back, but I think I want to get the Sanctuary down. And then, is it time to make some demon tokens? I think it is worth it to attack with Tortoise now. And could activate Sanctuary first as well. While we have the discounts. Yeah, maybe get in with Cottage and then make 1 demon. That seems fine. Also gets buffed by the tortoises. Make some food. Get back Fabled Passage. Yeah, I'm sorry for the room noises from the Annex here. And the opponent is just too far behind. They're gonna get drained for 4 once again. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, and we have what looks like a functional hand, just missing some of our curve toppers perhaps. A lot of mana, no real payoff just yet. I think I still try. My colors are sorted, especially once we deploy the core. I have early interaction if I need it. Alright, Hive Pool, that's the payoff we were looking for. So now I may as well attack for 1. Opponent blue-red, maybe elementals. Yep, Flame Braider, that's definitely a must answer. So I can play a core, into another core, into Requiting Hex. I love tapping artifacts for mana the turn they come into play. There's something very satisfying about it. Well, next turn, Hive Pool is online. Hope it doesn't get countered. And then I guess I'll keep up mana for Ba Sing Se, since I'm going to be a little bit short of attacking with the cores. Even though I could animate them, they would be tapped. So instead, I can still activate my land. which I guess is also tapped, but better than nothing. Ill-timed explosion wipes the board, but turns out we don't really care. Opponent didn't even actually wipe the board, they just drew 2 with it. We've got our own board wipe. But yeah, now we can get busy with the core. And smash. And the double strike adds up very quickly. Opponent's at 3. So they can wipe the board for all I care, but there we go, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a fine hand. Liner Elves into Explorer, get the Annex going. Basing Say will be untapped. So, the Liner Elves can be a bit of a nombo with our Sweeper, of course, but it still allows for some very explosive starts with our various 3-drops. Okay, opponent's gonna use the removal spell here to get rid of it. So I guess we'll be a turn behind after all. Alright, that's not a huge problem. So Emptiness, naming Elementals, so an Elemental deck. And a Duskmourn's Claim, I see. Yeah, the Elementals are all quite pricey, despite having kind of a cheaper Evoke mode. So it makes sense with a Claim. Alright, so what's next? This turn, since we're already drawing cards with a Claim, I probably don't want to lose more life to it. I'll just go for the Explorer. And then next turn we can get Tortoise going. No lands in graveyard just yet. Now Ashling can discard and draw. Can also answer it with a Hex. And Vibrance will take out my Changeling. Opponent revealed another land. We revealed a core. Okay, so far we're kind of ahead in the exchange. And yeah, play Tortoise with a fetch to guarantee a land in the graveyard. And then I can still Hex. Could even attack with Mutavaults for free, but then I wouldn't be able to Hex Ashling, so this seems better. And sure, I'll Blind just to gain 2, could matter if our opponent's trying to burn us out with a Claim. Alright, pass it back. We did mill one of our Hive pools, unfortunately. But we still have a card draw engine to find more. Now Wistfulness, full price. So I can draw this card. No artifact or enchantments in play yet, although we do have a few in hand. So it's possible they have a second copy. Opponent falls to 3, we revealed an 8 mana card. So their opponent's just gonna die to their own Duskmourn's Claim here. So let's see, you can animate this for free, activate Basing Save for 2 mana. And that should just be game over. But I could also get the job done in a few other ways. Alright, so yeah, Duskmourn's Claim, a bit of a double-edged sword. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a functional hand. We'll need a second black source eventually. Turn 1 Liner Elves, so should be a good matchup for Deadly Cover-Up. Now Bloom Tender, more Mana Elves. So our opponent might be on kind of the Vivid strategy. to get the most out of their Bloom Tender and other Vivid cards. Formidable Speakers, so we'll find out what they're gonna get. Discarding the Flesh Crafter, which can copy something, so they can still renew it out of the graveyard, getting another Llanowar Elves. Oh, if they cast it, I should just cast a cover up here. And then, even if I attack and they block, I wouldn't be able to collect evidence, so I probably shouldn't bother. Could also potentially play my fetch and then Earthbend onto it and wait one more turn on Deadly Cover-Up. So I have to activate Basing Say now, since it's only as a sorcery. But don't have to sacrifice Fabled Passage in case I need to jump with it. Alright, more Bloom Tenders. More food for the meat grinder. Suppose they could have the elf that makes their team indestructible. That one would be effective. So now I can still fetch with a Fabled Passage. Should probably get another forest. And cast a Sweeper. And our opponent doesn't want to play anymore. Alright, so on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a decent hand. Llanowar Elves setting up a turn 2 Explorer. And then we'll have our Demon for the Annex. Opponent off to a similar start. Okay, feels like I'll have to shock one of these in at some point. Could even start with a Demon token, if we feel like it. Alright, opponent's got a similar idea. Well, in that case, I probably go for the Demon, since we need the extra pressure here. Although extra cards would be nice too. Still dies to the 1-mana removal spell, although they didn't take out my elves earlier. Yeah, we've played the same cards so far. I wonder where the lists start diverging. Alright, now we can double unlock Annex, that's pretty sweet. If they have a Maelstrom Pulse, they would actually blow up their own enchantment as well, which is interesting to note. Do I attack with the Explorer? Yeah, I guess I do. If they want to trade, that's fine. And then we draw 2, and drain for 4, finding another one. Alright, and that'll do it. So yeah, we got to see this black-green Changeling ramp deck in action, and I was quite pleased with all the various interactions between demons and slivers and changelings. The deck is capable of keeping the board nice and clear, and at the same time we're pretty resilient to opposing sweepers, as we can just close out the game with our various creature lands and other artifacts. So yeah, the deck has a lot going for it. There's a lot of customization, of course, available when it comes to black-green, kind of mid-rangey controlling decks. There's a bunch of ways we can configure them, but I think this is a good starting point at the very least. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.